Welcome to Zera Institute. Welcome to our online basic pattern making course. Today, we'll be learning how to draft the basic bodice. We have our tools. I'm using markers, but you can use pencil. I'm using markers so you can see clearly. Measuring tape, my pattern ruler. You can also use a pattern master, or you can use an armhole curve or an armhole and a hip curve separately. But I know how to use this pattern ruler to get my hip curve and the armhole curve and the rest of that. But you can get a pattern master, you can get separate armhole curve, hip curve, and the rest of that. Whatever you know how to use best. These are the measurement needed for the basic bodice, for drafting the basic bodice. The bust measurement, you have the waist, the hip, the shoulder, the upper chest width, the back width, the bust span, the side length, the shoulder to nipple, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip, shoulder to waist for the back, the arm size, the shoulder slope, and the shoulder seam. These are the measurements we will be using. First, with my measuring tape, from the edge of the paper, look, my measuring tape is starting from the edge of the paper. And I'll be marking the vertical lines first, or the horizontal lines. Okay, first thing first, I'll take the measurement of the shoulder to nipple. How to take this measurement, I have an ebook on that, on how to take accurate body measurement. You can get one for yourself, so you learn how to take this measurement. So I'll start with the shoulder to nipple. The shoulder to nipple for this model is 10.5, so I'll mark 10.5, and then I'll measure shoulder to waist, which is 17. I'll mark, and then I'll measure the shoulder to hip, which is 26. I'll mark. So I'll mark these lines and then rule them out. I've already I've already drawn the horizontal lines. From the edge of my paper, I marked 10.5, and I marked 10.5 and I drew this straight line. And I also measured 17 for the waist, and I drew the straight line. And I also marked 26 for the hip. So I'll label bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. So the first thing I'll do, I'll check the measurement of the shoulder. So the measurement of the shoulder here is 15. So I'll divide 15 by 2. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So I'll divide 15 by 2 to get 7.5. I'll mark 7.5 here. Now from this point I marked, the shoulder slope. So the shoulder slope for this model is 1. Shoulder slope may vary from 0.75 to 1.5 inches. For this my model, her shoulder slope is 1 inch. So I'll mark 1. So from this point, I'll be measuring the shoulder seam. From this point, I'll be measuring the shoulder seam. The shoulder seam for my model is 5 inches. So from here, I'll pivot my measuring tape. From this point, I placed at 5. Just watch. Let me just place it like this. 5, and then, try to meet the edge of the paper. Then from here to here, I get 5 inches. So I draw this line. So from here, from this point, so I'll place my ruler on the slope, like this point that I just marked, this point, to the bust line. Look at my measuring tape. I'll place my measuring tape here. Then I'll divide by 2. You can use your measuring tape to divide, or you can use your calculator. I got 9.5 here. I'll divide by 2. Here I got 4 3/4. So I'll mark 4 3/4. I'll come here. What I got 4 3/4, I'll mark. Then I use my pattern ruler to draw a straight line. A straight line. This will be my upper, this will serve as my upper chest width. The distance from the slope to the bust line divided by 2 is my upper chest width. So next, I want to get my bust measurement. My bust measurement is 42. My bust measurement is 42. For my client is 42. 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. But I want to add half an inch of an ease, or quarter. You can add half or quarter an inch of an ease, because you know the bust is full, it is prominent, so you have to give it room. Let's give it a little bit of allowance or ease. So I'm adding half inch. You can choose to add a quarter inch or half, so but I'm adding half. So that's 11 now. Now at the waist measurement of my model is 39. I divided 39 by 4 and I got 9 3/4. In my ebook on how to take accurate measurement, I also talked about measuring tape and how to read the measuring tape. You can check it out. So 39 divided by 4, I got 9 3/4. 9 3/4 plus 1 inch for that. We are putting a dart at the front for the bodice. So 1 inch for that will be 10 3/4. So I'll measure 10 3/4 now. 10 3/4. So I'll be measuring 10 3/4. For the hip line is 46. 46 divided by 4, I have 11 and a half. Remember, for the hip line, you know, for a female figure, the front part is actually smaller than the back pattern. I mean, for the hip area, you know, for the back, the woman is endowed with the bum bum or the buttocks, so the bum bum is actually protruded, and it should take up more fabric than that of the front for the hip part. So that's why at the hip part, I'll be reducing, you know, it's if I divide 46 by 4, I'll get 11.5, 11 and a half. But I'll be using 11, not 11 and a half. I will add that half inch to the back. I'll subtract from the front and add it to the back, so that the back is actually more than the front because of the buttocks. So I'll mark 11. So this is my upper chest width. So the measurement for the upper chest width here is 13.5, 13 and a half. 13 and a half divided by 2, I'll get 6 3/4. 6 3/4 I'll mark. For the bust line, I've already marked. So I'll join this line first with my curve ruler. Just watch how I use my curve ruler. I'll join. Now for the bust to the waistline, remember, you take the measurement of this person's side seam or side length. So this client's side length is 7. So from the waist, I will measure 7 to meet this line. 7 inches from the waist, side length. So I mark here. See, it's a little above the bust line. A little above the bust line. So I'll mark. I'll join this point that I marked a little above the bust line. See, I measured from the waistline. I measured 7 inches from the waistline. That's the side length. To get my side length, I tried to take the tape to meet the place I already marked the bust, that bust point, and then it came a little above the bust line. So I'll join that line now. If you don't understand, you can watch the video again to understand. You were to pause the video to understand. At the hip line, I'll be joining this line to the hip line. So I'll be using slightly curved line to join this line. So I'll also try to blend this line to get the arm curve. Okay, I've gotten the arm curve here. So the next I'll be getting the neckline. The neckline is 3 inches down from those points, that I marked. The slope, the shoulder slope is starting from. I'll mark 3 inches down. I'll mark. Then I'll measure what is left from for the shoulder slope. After the shoulder slope, I'll measure what's left. What's left for this person is 2.5. For some others, it can be 3 inches. I'll mark 2.5. I draw something like a box to serve as a guideline. I'll draw something like a box to serve as a guideline. And then using my curve ruler. Okay, I've gotten the neckline. So next, what I'll be doing is to mark the dart. First, I'll check the measurement of person bust span. Person's bust span is 7 inches. 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5. I'll mark 3.5 from the center front. This is the center front. This part is the center front. This is my side seam. This is center front. This is my side seam. So from this part, I will measure 3.5. 3.5. I'll come to the hip to measure 3.5. But from this point 3.5, I'll place my tape here and go 1 inch up. 3 inches up. Measure if it's 3.5. It's 3.5. This 3 inches up is where the dart leg will stop. So now connect these 3 dots. This dot here I marked here, this second dot and this third dot here. I'll connect the 3 dots. It's a straight line. So next, on the waist, remember we gave 1 inch allowance for this dart. So on the waist, on both sides, on either side of the dart of this straight line, I'll take half inch. That's the 1 inch that we already added to the waist. Then I'll mark. I'll draw my dart leg. Just watch what I'm doing. I'll draw my dart leg. So this is it. I'm done with the. Let me label my pattern. This is center front. This is the side seam. SS is the side seam. So I've labeled everything. Then you can also add your green line, to indicate the direction of the fabric. The green line is used to indicate the direction that you place the pattern on the fabric. So you can either place the pattern on this grain or on this grain. So that's what it is. So after this one, we'll move to the back pattern. Ensure you also label your pattern. Use the person's name to label. This person is Pat, so I'm using Pat to label. Label your client's name after drafting your pattern. Label your pattern so you don't mess it up. So this is it. Will be moving to the back pattern.